Hi. Hi, welcome back, guys, to our new session. And in today's session, we will be practicing some programs regarding decision statements, and it's our last lecture on decision statements. So after this lecture, students will get the ability to work with decision statements, and they will understand it practically, and they will be able to use it in their own programs and practice with it. So let's get started. I've got a couple of programs that I'm just going to write in this session. We've got almost 6 programs that I'm going to create right now in this session. So we have just 6 participants at the moment. We're hoping for more. But anyway, we'll have to start whatever. So we're going to write the first program. The first program says write a program to input a number and tell whether it is odd or even. So we have to simply write a program, and a user will have to enter a number, and the program will tell that if the given number is even or odd. So what is an even number? Even number is the number when any number which is divided by 2 and gives us 0 remainder. That's called even number. And odd is the opposite of even numbers. Even number means we'll get a remainder other than 0. So that's called odd number. So I'm just going to open up my compiler, div C++. I'm going to write the first program. There are some programs that are quite complicated, and I will be explaining them briefly. But as you guys can see that some of the programs here are quite easy. So I'm just going to explain it roughly. Right. So the first program, I'm just going to open up my compiler. Right. So the compiler has already been set. As you guys can see on the screen, I'm just going to remove the previous program, and we have to write a program in which I have to get a number from the user. So to get a number from the user, I'll use integer, and I'll declare a variable integer x. I'll display to the user enter a number, right? Enter a number, and then through cin, I'll get an integer from the user, and it will be stored in variable x. So that's it. Now we'll have to make a use of conditional statements or decisional statements. So I'm just going to make use of if statement, right? If x, right? If x modulus, because this symbol is used to give us modulus. We have explained that in previous lectures. I'm sure you guys know the purpose of this symbol. So x modulus 2, if x modulus 2 equals to 0, so just know this is you entered an even number. You entered an even number, right? Else, cout, you entered an odd number. You entered an odd number, and that's pretty much of it. So we're just going to save it, and I'm just going to compile it. So now it's compiling, right? So it's compiling, and we'll see how it's going to work. So bear with me. It's almost done. Now I'm just going to run it. As you guys can see on the screen, enter any number. So I'm just going to enter a number, suppose 4. So I got my output as you entered an even number, which is pretty fine. So it's working fine. It's functioning fine. And now if I enter an odd number, suppose 3, so I get my output as you entered an odd number. Is there any question in this program? Go to the chat option kindly and ask your question. right? So if you have any question, go to the chat option and ask your question. Let me run it again. And this is the output here. If I enter 10 here, I got my output. You entered an even number, which is true. So this is the code for the first program, and I'm just going to save it, right? I'm just going to save it, and I will be sharing all these programs that I'm just going to write in this session in our group, and I will also put all these programs. I will link it to our Google Drive account in the description of this YouTube lecture. If you're watching it on YouTube, so you can definitely find out all these programs in a zip file, and you just have to go to the description of this video, this lecture, and you will get that link. So from there you can easily download all these programs. So I have completely written my first program. Let me rename it E1 or OR. So this is our first program. So I've just recently discussed that how to get even and odd number. This is the program I've just discussed. You see how it works. First of all, I got the value from the user and stored it in variable X. Then I'm using condition. I'm checking the condition that if X divided by 2, if the remainder equals to 0. So just tell the user you entered an even number. Otherwise, if this condition turns to be false, then execute the else part, which says you entered an odd number. So suppose if the remainder is not equal to 0, so that means we've got an odd number. That's why I tell the user in else statement that you have entered an odd number. Yeah, we've discussed switch statement in the previous lecture, so you should watch the previous lecture, and then your doubts will be clarified and you could easily understand that. So this is the first program, and we're heading towards the second one. Actually, as I said in the beginning of this lecture, that some programs here in this list are quite easy and are simple, so I'm just going to explain it roughly. On the other hand, there are some which are quite complicated and lengthy, so then I'll discuss them briefly, right? So this was an easy program, the first one, and we're just heading to the second one. Second program says that find the highest number among 4 digits. So we have to find the highest number among 4 digits. So how do we do that? We can use conditional decisional statements again. Let me rename it highest digit, and I'm just going to erase all these lines because this is the previous one, this is from the previous one, right? And now first of all I have to get 4 integers, right? So int num1 equals to, suppose 4, int num2 equals to 5. You can also int num3 equals to 10, suppose, and int num4 equals to 7, suppose. Now I have to write a program. In which the program will tell me which one is the highest digit, right? Which one is the highest digit? So the program has to find it by its own, which is the highest digit among all these 4 integers. So we'll again make use of if statement, else if statement, and else statement, right? And we'll be using we'll make use of logical operators as well. So guys, be attentive. First of all, I'll apply the condition. If num1 is greater, if num1 is greater than num2, and num1 is also greater than num3, and num1 is also greater than num4. So just tell the user that the highest digit, or you can say the greatest digit, the greatest number is the greatest number is, and then I'll just print that number, which is num1 here. That's it. Now I'll be using else if statement, because here we have several conditions. So if num2 is greater than num1 and num2 is also greater than num3 and num2 is also greater than num4, tell the user the greatest number is num2 in this case. If and else if num3 is greater than num1 and num3 is also greater than num2 and num3 is also greater than num4. So tell the user the greatest number is num3, else num4 is the greatest integer. The greatest number is num4. If none of these conditions satisfies, the else statement will be executed, and we will just simply know that num4 is the greatest integer. So if you have any question, go to the chat option and go to the chat option, and you can ask your question, you'll get the answer. So we have got a question from somebody, one of my students. So where we get 4, 5, 10, 7. So we have got we have entered this value in the program, but you can also convert these values into integer. You can get these values from the user at runtime. But just for convenience, I put these values. I initialize these values, right? I initialize these variables with different values. So just to know that if this program is working fine or not. So that is just simple. If you want these values to be entered by the user during runtime, and most of the guys know how to do that. So let's just run this program and see how it's working. Do we really get the highest digit? So as you guys can see the result on the screen, the greatest number is 10 in this case, which is absolutely true. So so if I just change this num4, if I put 100 here, and I'm just going to compile it now, and we'll be running the program. So now you can see that it gives me the greatest integer among all these 4. Is there any question in this program? We have discussed all these operators, if statement, else if statement in previous lectures. So if you guys have missed out on those, then I cannot say that with surety that you guys can understand this lecture. But anyway, you'll have to watch the previous lectures so that you can easily understand this one. Well, I will discuss it just roughly because we're having short time. So I've just defined, I've initialized some values, and I just have to find the greatest integer among all these 4. So the first num1 is first checked. If num2 is greater than num2 and num1 is also greater than num3 and num1 is also greater than num4. So just know num1 is the greatest number. And I did the same with num2 and num3. And at the end, I made a use of else statement. And because if all these condition turns to be false, so that means else will be executed and we'll get the highest number, which has to be num4 in this case, if all these condition turns to be false. So this is second program. So if we use for num in sin, yes, I told you that you guys can convert these variables to cin. Like you can get these values from the user, right? A user has to enter all these 4 values, right? You can use, you can just modify it. First value, or first number. And then I know that this is much easier. Num1, then you just have to copy these and get all these values from the user at runtime. So it will still work. It will definitely work. This is num3, this is num4, enter second number. I did that just to save my time as well and also yours time. That's why. But let's just modify it. Fourth number. So yeah, and you can just declare all these variables in a single line: num1, num2, num3, num4, and we're done. So we'll have to get the values from the user at runtime. I'll just put /n here in order to break the line. \n. So let's compile this program, and now a user will have to enter all these 4 values. So as you can see, enter first number. Suppose I enter 6. The second one I enter 30, and in the third one I enter 1000. In the fourth one I enter 1. So I still get the result, which is fine. The greatest number is 1000 among all these 4. So this is the second program. I'm sure that there are no questions. If you have any question, go to the chat option and I'll be answering your questions, right? So this is the second program. Let me just save it, digit, and I'll make a copy of it and paste it in order to write the third program. So what is the third program? Write a program to input a character and tell whether it is a vowel or constant. So we have to make a program in which a user will be entering any of the available characters on the keyboard, and the program will tell that if the user has entered a vowel or consonant. Vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and apart from that, all of the remaining alphabets are called consonants, right? So let's just make this program. Can you guys tell me what is the best statement here that I can use, and I'll make a use of it. Go to the chat option and answer this question. How can I find if a user has entered a vowel or a consonant? Go to the chat option and answer this question. Yeah, character, suppose X, and I'll tell the user enter any character. Tell me what is the best statement here that I can make use of. So why are you putting full colons on the statement of first value? I don't get your point, man. Why am I putting full colons? What do you mean by full colons on the statement of the first value? Right? You know, this is the syntax. I explained that in the first lecture, so you must watch the first lecture. Then there will be no problems with the structure of program, right? The topic of this program is that I'm just practicing with some programs in order to clarify our doubts or to learn these decisional statements practically, to work with it practically, so you guys can use these programs. You guys can make use of decisional statements in your programs. That's what I'm doing here. So what is the best statement I can use here? Do you have any answer? I guess you guys didn't got the answer. So I'll make a use of switch statement here. You guys can use if else and else if that body, that structure as well. But I guess switch statement is pretty good here. It's suitable here. So I'll make a use of this statement here, switch statement, case. If that equals to A, cout vowel, right? The second case, AE, that equals to E, cout. This is also a vowel. That's also a vowel. And then the third case, AEI. Tell the user if entered vowel. If you have any question, go to the chat option and ask your questions. Thank you. AEIO. This is our second one. This is our fourth vowel. See out, this is vowel. This is also vowel. And then A, E, I, O, U. The last one is remaining, which is U, right? And then tell the user you've entered a vowel. And then we'll use default statement. Default case is that if the user enters any apart from these, then that will be considered as vowel, consonant. So consonant, that's it. I'm done. And I forgot something here. Yeah, I did it intentionally, which is break statement. I have to use break statement at the end of each case. Break statement here, and also up down here I have to use break statement. So now you guys see that these programs are quite useful. Now you can find out that how to use switch statements in our programs. So now it's also one of the use of switch statement. Let me just compile the program. I'm getting an error. Is uninitialized in this function. All right. You know why? Because I didn't get the value from the user. So we'll use scene here, and I finally got my value from the user. So now I'm just compiling the program. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. And now I'm just going to run it by pressing F10. You guys can see that. I guess that was an old program, so let me compile it again and press enter. First number. Well, why we're just getting this error. Let me solve it. We have to close it, and let me rename it vowel or consonant, and let's open it up again. So let's compile it again. This is our third program. I guess that I just took a lot of your time, but enter any character. If I enter a vowel, suppose U, I get the result, which is U is a vowel. And if I enter anything apart from vowels, suppose Z, it says this is a consonant. So this is the result of our third program. If you have any questions in this program, go to the chat option and ask your question. So let me make a copy of it, and we'll go towards the fourth program. In the fourth program, write a program to input a number and tell whether it is positive or negative. So a user have to enter a number, and program will tell the user that have you entered a positive number or you have entered a negative number. So this is pretty simple, guys. I guess you guys can also do it your own, but I have to do it anyway. So let me just erase the previous program. And first of all, I should declare a variable integer x. I'll tell the user enter a number, right? Enter a number, and then I'll make use of cin, and I'll just store it here. Now, what we have to do here, if x is greater than or equal to 0, tell the user you entered positive. You entered a positive number, right? If the x value is greater than or equal to 0, that means that's a positive number, right? It's pretty simple. And if that's not the case, tell the user you entered a negative number, right? So let's compile it, guys, by pressing F9. This is pretty simple. So now it's compiling, and let me run it. Enter any character. Well, we're still having the issue. Let me save it. Let me reopen it. Let me rename it. So what should be named for this program? Positive. You guys might think that if I'm talking about COVID, positive or negative. So now it's running. Let me compile it. So I think I need tests or exams for me to know if I'm following this. I've offered you this course for free, absolutely for free, and you guys told me you want to learn C++, so you are here to learn C++. Enter a number, that's the output of the program. So if I have to enter, suppose 100, which is a positive number, I'll get the result as you entered a positive number. And now I'm just going to enter any negative number, suppose -10, which is a negative number. So it tells me that you entered a negative number. That was simple. I applied a condition. It checks that if the value entered by the user is greater than or equal to 0, then that's a positive number. Otherwise, that's a negative number. So that was our fourth program. Let me make a copy of it. And now let's go to the fifth program, which says that find least digit using nested if. So what is nested if? Nested if is when you define if statement inside the body of another if statement, right? So let's just do it practically. We have to find the least digit among 3 digits. Yeah, let's go with the 3 digits. I'll be taking 3 digits and we'll have to find the least digit among those 3 by using nested if. So suppose in num1 here, num1 equals to 10, in num2 equals to suppose 5, and in num3 equals to 3 or equals to 1. So yeah, now I will make a use of nested if here. If num1 is less than num2, if num1 is less than num2 and num1 is also less than num3, so that means the least digit is so in this case it will be num1, right? If num1 is less than num2 and also num1 is less than num3, so num1, in this case num1 is the greatest integer. Else, see out, the least digit is num, which one has to be the least one here? If num1 is less than num2 and num1 is also less than num3, but if num1 is less than num2 but num1 is not less than num3, so that means num3 is the least here. And I will also have to make else for it, and it says in this case the least digit is if num1 is less than num2, means when if num1 is not less than num2, so that means num2 in this case is least. I guess they will be having issues, but let's just see if it gives the correct result. Enter number. Well, that's again the previous one. I got fed up. Least digit. Now let me compile it by pressing F9 and pressing F10. So the least digit is 5, which is incorrect output. why we got incorrect output. Why we got incorrect output if num1 is less than num2, right? And if that's not true, so what we got to do? We have to use if again here. Let me make a body for it. If num3, if that fails, if this case fails, so num2 has to be checked. Num2 is less than num3, so least is num2. Let's see if it works. We didn't get our result. Why? I'm just having some issues with this program, I guess. So I will have to think about it. We can just modify the program. I guess it's just a kind of complex program. And, you know, if you want to find the least digit, you can make use of logical operators. But I just wanted to tell you guys what is the use of nested if. So that's why I was doing it, but I kind of got failed, right? So, I will just do another simple example to tell you guys how to use nested if, right? Suppose, what program can I really make? Just know that, you know, if there is a condition, if we have a condition here in the outer if statement, and there's another condition, right, in the inner if statement. So if this condition turns to be true, then the control flow will come down here, and this statement has to be executed, which again we have if statement. So this condition then will be checked. But if this condition turns to be false, then both of them will be skipped, and the rest of the program will come into play. So that's actually the use of nested if. And you can also find the least or the largest greatest number by using a nested if. But to be quite honest, this is quite complicated. That's why I even got confused here. And I will show you guys, I made a program on nested if, right? By finding out the greatest integer among 4. So let me show you that program if I have it here, so that you guys can have a slight idea that why it's supposed to be that much complicated. So I'm just trying to show you guys that program if I have it here. So I have some programs here. I've checked this folder, working projects. I guess that was the one that I've written. So yeah, that was the program. This is the program in which we find the greatest integer among all these 4 integers. So you guys can see that first of all, I got all the values from the user, and now the if nested if conditions, nested if structure starts here. You guys can see that how complicated it is, and it's working pretty fine. So you guys can see that this is quite complicated. That's why if you want to find the least or the greatest integer, so we should make the use of logical operators, as we recently made a program on that, the one that you guys can see, find the highest number among 4 digits. So if you want to do that using nested if, that's the program for it. But if you want to do that using just simple way, which is using logical operators and if else if statement, so then that's simple one. So I would recommend that use that one. Okay, so now we have another program. I just messed up with the 5th program, but anyway, I showed you that how it's going to work. why we should not make a use of nested if in this case. So we have another program which says write a program to find the grade of three subjects according to the given criteria. So we have been given a criteria, right? And we have to find out the grade of these three subjects, right? And we are not told that what structure should I be using. So it's all up to us whether we make use of any statement. Yeah, it's all up to us. So this is the criteria for it. Oh, so let me make a copy of it and I'll rename it grade finder. And let me just open it up. So we have to find the grade of three subjects, right? So first of all, so I just get the I just want to make it simple because of the shortage of time. So suppose if I have an integer x which equals to, suppose we have three subjects, so suppose max marks for each subject is 100 and the total marks I've got is suppose 250 here. So the max marks here, max marks, we have max marks equals to 100 300, right? So how we can make this program, I will just give you guys a slight idea and then you guys will have to make this for yourself, or I will just help you guys within the group. Okay, so this is the amount here. So see what we need to do here.